Welcome to Worldbuild with us. This is the podcast where we create fantastical worlds with help from you, our listeners. My name is Rob Hilferty, and I'm here with my co-hosts Daniel Quinn and Courtney Staples. On today's episode, we are going to play some copyright music. Oh wait, we can't, but it's the Monster Mash. So, a little bit different from what we normally do here. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be rolling for a random monster. We actually each brought in 4 different monsters, so we're going to get a gamut of different variety here. And then we're going to basically do a world building jam with that monster in mind primarily. So we have to figure out a way to jam in that monster into the world building jam session and make it important in some meaningful way. If you want us to build your world, remember that you can always go to our website, worldbuildwithus.com, follow the link, and in no time, sometime actually, we'll be building your world. If you want to follow us on social media, we're over at Let's World Build on Twitter. If you want to come join our Discord and talk about monsters, world building, or anything else, you can follow a link for that in the description. And if you're feeling particularly generous, or you want some sweet access to our patron-only episodes, you can give us money over on Patreon with a link for that, also in the description. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and figure out the monster that we're going to be focusing on today. That would be the Minotaur, a classic of Greek mythology, born of, what is it? The Bull of Minos, or Minos is the original one, which is kind of the curse of a god, correct, Courtney?
Yeah, it's like Poseidon has this bull that he wants the king to sacrifice, and the king doesn't for some reason. And
probably something to do with hubris. The Greeks loved hubris back then. Yeah.
I think that is, yeah. And then Poseidon cursed the king's wife to fall in love with the bull, and there's some bestiality there, and
yeah, there's always some questionable shit going on in Greek mythology.
Yeah. Anyway, she somehow that copulation ends up with the Minotaur as the child.
Right, and then Daedalus has to build a labyrinth to hide the Minotaur, and hide the king of Minos' shame and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
is there any good Greek mythology RPGs? Because I would be down for that.
I would take a look into Aegon, which is the creator of Blades in the Dark's Greek mythology surrounding RPG. And John Harper is the creator of that. And he is an interesting guy and has politics that I think you would agree with, Daniel. So,
oh, really? Fascinating. I wonder what those politics are.
I'm also curious.
Courtney, actually, I would say Courtney is probably more aligned with John Harper's politics, but I will just say that the police are a rival gang in Blades of the Dark for a reason. It is a deliberate choice.
There you go.
Yes. But enough of that. Okay,
John Harper, come on over so we can learn about your weird politics.
Actually, I would love to have John Harper on the podcast. I think that'd be super fun. But I can't remember if we can't reach him or we just haven't had a chance to yet. I don't know. If someone within John Harper's regularly close bubble hears this, I don't know, toss it out, but that's not going to happen. Anyway, let's get on with this monster mash here. We now have to pick a genre that we're going to mash the Minotaur into. So let's go ahead and roll the dice and see what happens. Ooh, that's a nat 20, which is normally good, but here it just means that we have to roll twice and combine the two genres. So that just means more work for us. Let's see what happens. All right, first reroll. We've got a steampunk adventure, which I'm already liking, and then the second genre which we also have to mash together is. Well, I can't do steampunk twice, so let's reroll that
just
again.
Maximum steampunk.
Yeah, crank up the knob on the steampunk. And the second one is gothic horror. Okay, so we've got a gothic horror steampunk genre that we're mixing together. This is already a really fun direction, and especially when you add in minotaurs or a minotaur. The theme that we're going to go with here, that we're focusing on first, is going to be hope. Okay, we've got a hopeful gothic horror steampunk setting with a minotaur, and obviously the first thing that we're focusing on here is a monster. So where are our brains taking us with this? I think this is our very first double genre that we've gotten here. So, Courtney, I believe this was your monster, so you're going to be the one to start us off here.
All right. This is an interesting combination.
So boy, is it. Yeah.
With steampunk right away, I was thinking like the Minotaur is some kind of construct or like half construct kind of thing. Gothic horror, though. I mean, I guess that horror element could be something having to do with exploring a labyrinth type setting.
Okay.
I like that.
Love that already. Here's where my can I I'm like so ready to jump in here.
Oh, please do.
Okay. So we've got gothic horror. We've got steampunk. Where does my brain go immediately? We're thinking Victorian England because, of course, and more specifically, we're thinking Jack the Ripper. And in this case, Jack the Ripper is not just some regular ass serial killer. It is a literal beast of a minotaur sitting in like the labyrinthine, like urban environment of a gothic horror / steampunk city.
I was also thinking of the city as labyrinth too.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, Daniel.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
proper
and,
thematics we got going on here.
I really like the Minotaur being part machine, which I think is what you're getting at.
Yes.
Or construct. And then, so I guess we will get to the hope inevitably.
Oh, right, we do have that.
Oh yeah, there's that.
Damn it.
But starting with that, and I want to think back on what the Minotaur means, right? Like, so the Minotaur itself is something that was something that was the product of essentially like defying the gods and also appreciating the beauty of something. So like the king, like Minos, he thought the bull was beautiful, I guess, and so didn't want to sacrifice it. And his refusal to do that results in his wife copulating with it and creating the Minotaur. So I wonder if there's a way we can connect at least the idea of like I guess refusing a higher authority and this being the curse given to you, or the consequence. I don't know if that's really the theme of the Minotaur, at least prior to it being in the labyrinth. But I wonder if there's something we can take from the Greek mythology.
I like the way, I mean, like, even if our interpretation isn't exactly spot on, I like the creativity and your approach to this angle that we're going with here. I agree, by the way. I think that having the Minotaur be part machine, and mind you, when we say the Minotaur, we can have it be a literal Minotaur, or we can have it be more broadly thematically a Minotaur. So it can be like a half human, half machine. And then, when they're in Jack the Ripper serial killer mode, they have like bull horns and stuff like that. or like maybe they're just mechanically like similar to a beast of some kind, But I like that what we're going with here so far. So Daniel, the idea that you're trying to run with here is some kind of like blessing or curse from a god in some way. Is that where we want to start?
It doesn't have to be a god, and I'd rather it be more rooted in something not magical because this is a steampunk setting, but some higher authority, and the consequence of defying it is the creation of this thing. So maybe it's the creation of this construct. So is like the construct a curse placed upon the city because of what someone has done, or is it the consequence of like refusing to sacrifice something else?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So my question becomes, is the half mechanical side of this Minotaur, is that like, are they out of the womb looking like that? Or is it a matter of this is a person who was born with some kind of a birth defect, and the mechanical nature, the mechanical half of them is Daedalus's attempt at creating a better life for this person. But this person is just that kind of like touched or traumatized in such a way where, or maybe they're just like naturally like psychopathic or sociopathic, where they're just like, I'm a fucking murderer.
I mean,
but it's like, so you get a little bit of both, where it's like you're trying to create a kindness, and then it ends up, I mean, if you wanted to be a higher power, this could be just like a rich person's like offspring, and they basically cast them down into the slums, the labyrinthine slums, as a way to sate their bloodlust and also like kind of put them out of like sight of the higher ups, so to speak.
Yeah, I had two kind of thoughts before you got to that point. One was like that this was a punishment enacted upon the person who became the Minotaur. Kind of thinking of like the remade from Boss Log by China Mayville, that setting, where basically criminals are punished by like being sort of like butchered and made into like part mechanical things, or it's pretty disturbing. So I was thinking that, or as an alternative, like something that was kind of released down, whether it's from like the church or the police or some other group, to like purge the city of what they deem to be vile.
I like that last idea. I wonder if you can take a bit from both. Like, I like the idea of this kind of rich experimenter maybe being responsible for betraying it, like, and casting it away. And then perhaps maybe in the slums, someone tried to fix this thing. And like they fixing it, their intent was to purge the rich from the city, like, you know, maybe to stock the city's labyrinth and to really get rid of those who are oppressing them in the labyrinth of the city. And there's your hope.
well, see, I was thinking that we would approach hope not from the point of Minotaur, but from the point of Theseus. It is Theseus, right? Not Perseus. I always
Theseus, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we can, I mean...
Well, can Theseus be evil? Like, can the Minotaur be the hero in this case? Like, if the city has this higher oppressive rich class, right, and it's the one that casts the Minotaur down, I feel like it would be a reversal of the Minotaur's fortune if it's the hero. Like in the sense that, like, it's the one purging these other rich elements from the city.
What if, like, Theseus is Jack the Ripper in this setting? Like he's like some rich, like son of a rich family kind of thing, and like
a serial killer who's rich,
right?
Yeah.
All
right, we're gonna like crank this up. We're gonna crank up the drama shit to an 11, because remember, this is gothic horror, which is, you know, there's always like that element of like tragedy and like
weird,
a little bit of weird. So here's what I'm thinking. These two, we have Theseus and we have the Minotaur. They are twins at birth.
That is totally what I was thinking.
Yes.
And one is deformed, and that's why he was altered by the underclass.
And so
that's why he was cast out.
And that's why you have, I actually want to keep it strictly in the labyrinthine part of like, like the labyrinth itself being the slums. So you actually have this cat and mouse game of Theseus versus the Minotaur, as like one is trying to stop the other, and there is this public perception of one being monstrous and one being the hero, right?
Wouldn't he have to venture though into the upper class in order to pose that threat, the Minotaur? Like, can the labyrinth be like sections of the city? So part of it is slums where he's emerging from, but he's going into like the noble district.
What if there's
like, middle.
Yeah, like what if there's catacombs under the city that he kind of walks through that lead into
that's where he
parts?
retreats to, or his bases.
Okay, so that's the labyrinth then, is like a catacomb under city, so to speak, right?
But he comes out to enact his justice, and Theseus has to go into the catacombs to confront the Minotaur where he resides, basically.
But it's the opposite though, because the Theseus is the serial killer in this case.
Well, he's killing people throughout the city. I mean, like, in order to find and kill the Minotaur, that's where the Minotaur lives. That's where his base of operations, it seems, is, right?
Okay. I think we're getting a little muddled here, but I think that we've got like such a great fucking idea that we've got going on. I mean, think that we should workshop it a little bit. Huh?
This is Batman Returns.
Batman Returns?
That's what this is.
Oh, you mean like with the Penguin?
Yeah, this is literally Batman Returns, but the Penguin. The Penguin is the Minotaur.
Yeah, you're actually not wrong. It's pretty close, isn't it?
I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I am really interested in here is like this idea that like the city as the labyrinth is a really fascinating thing to me. And I think that by having catacombs rather than like having a labyrinthine like area of the city, I'm less interested in that than I am like keeping the strong theme of like, you know, like I think that the catacombs is a fine idea, but I mean, I feel like that's just adding an extra layer, quite literally, that might not be necessary to this concept, right?
Well, can we just make it the city then? Like, I just don't want to restrict it to the poor part of the city, because I feel like the fact that Theseus is a rich serial killer and that he's perceived as the hero because he's hunting the Minotaur requires the Minotaur to pose a threat to that class of society.
Well, I mean, I suppose so, but I mean, have you ever seen From Hell, Daniel?
Oh, if I did, it was a billion years ago.
I haven't seen it either.
So there is, I'm getting strong From Hell vibes about what we're talking about here. And it is spoilers for like a, 20-year-old movie at this point. It's the at the end, you find out that the royal surgeon is the one who is going down into the slums and basically like butchering these poor women. And so you see like a cover up by the crown itself to make sure that this killer goes free. And I feel like we can probably mirror that by kind of showing off that, he can, like, he's allowed to walk into the slums, murder, butcher, and create this horrible scene and then blame it on the Minotaur because that Minotaur exists.
So so I get that. So basically, his perversion is to prey on the weak. Like, he goes into the slums to do the murdering that satisfies his perversion.
Correct.
Yeah, because he knows that he can just get away with it. Like, nobody's gonna look into it. Yeah.
Right.
And so the overclass is covering up. The ones connected to him, his family's covering it up. But the Minotaur knows his family because he is of his family.
Exactly.
So the Minotaur is wandering the streets and being blamed for these murders. He's reviled by both the poor and the rich.
Right. We could even have it so like the Minotaur's initial fall from grace or fall from the family is also Theseus's like fault. Like, it could be like the crime that Theseus commits, the Minotaur walks in and on Theseus is like so silver-tongued, blames him for it, and then no one believes the Minotaur because
he's deformed. So that's why they're like, of course that he did it. He's a monster.
Yeah, he's a monster. They perceive him as a monster. Exactly. Right.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so I'm totally on board with that. I get it. I like it.
Okay, and then hence the bad reputation starting out. But yeah.
Another element that we can bring in is Ariadne, who in the Greek myth was the Minotaur's half-sister, I think. And she is the one who helped Theseus navigate the labyrinth, essentially.
Right.
Then she fell in love with Theseus, and then he was a dick to her. But
Theseus? Wow.
Such a nice guy.
Yeah.
So in this one, maybe we could like switch it up so Ariadne could be like a wealthier woman who's helping Theseus out, but like at the last minute realizes what's going on and like realizes that Theseus
be the cops?
is.
I was actually thinking something like that. I was thinking she was an investigator. Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking.
I like that idea. Yeah.
And she has like literal string or something like that, you know.
That'll be a good subversion, because the expectation is the cops are always corrupt, and I'm sure that they are mostly corrupt because they're part of the wealthy class in this setting.
Yeah.
But if
this is the one good one.
Yeah, she thought that he was good. She learns that he's bad, and she has to side with the Minotaur in the end, which also subverts the Greek myth itself.
Yeah, that's great. That's really fun, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a really fun story already. Like, I'm absolutely loving what we're doing here. I feel like hope is definitely still there, but I feel like we need to spend a little bit more time talking about hope in order for me to feel fully satisfied with what we've got going on here.
Yeah. Could be something more to do with Ariadne.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure what, there's something about like her protecting her family who's at risk from Theseus.
I mean, potential for reform maybe in some way, or exposing the corruption in that ruling class.
Okay. I can support that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Could Could she be in some way connected? Because we're leaving out the poor. Could there be? We need a character among the poor, and I think the character who created the Minotaur has to be integral to this because he's the one who set the Minotaur out.
Yeah,
and that would be in this case it would be Daedalus, right? So
right.
Is
what's Daedalus like? Yeah.
Here's what I'm thinking. Daedalus is originally of the underclass and kind of through his genius works his way up. So he's working with kings, aka like the nobility of this area, right? And then when he quote unquote fixes the Minotaur and like he's like praised for it, it's like, wow, you've created this thing. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Great. And then once that Minotaur falls from grace, so does Daedalus. And Daedalus is like, I'm picturing them as like ultra genius, but like completely despondent and like an alcoholic at this point.
Oh, and especially if Icarus was also killed at some point by Theseus, maybe even as like revenge.
I was going to say, Theseus. Theseus is the one who killed Icarus.
Yeah,
and because he was learning too much, he was flying too close to the sun of the rich family, and so Theseus got him.
Look at all this shit that we're
perfect,
fucking dope.
Wow,
this is like a great. You know, if someone wants to steal this and write the novel, they would get awards because it's like reinventing. You know, not to toot our own horn here, but it's doing. There was a novel recently that really did it. I forget which hero it covered in particular.
There was Circe, which was really good.
Yeah, and there's been a spate, I feel like, of really redoing it, and this would be a great one.
I appreciate what we're doing here. Although I can't say that we're the ones who are like doing this whole thing, considering that the myth is like thousands of years old. But I think
reinventing on a premise.
I got you, Daniel.
Yeah. I got also, you. Daedalus, I totally dig it. I have no changes.
Okay, great.
So kind of what I was picturing. I don't know if I would make him a little bit more nefarious, but I feel like because we want to hope, I feel like if maybe he's the one who connects with the detective in the end, and
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it could work.
He's essentially the Q who's supplying Ariadne with all these like gadgets to go and find and stop this.
Because then she's got to work against her own cops too, so she's got to have this extra leg. You know,
exactly. Yeah. And can we make that leg literal? Can we just give her a prosthesis for no reason? Like,
sure.
Why not? Right?
Why not? It's fucking steampunk.
Fuck it, right? Yeah.
And maybe her leg, she had an encounter with the Minotaur that was like a misunderstood encounter and it broke her leg permanently. And so she's
I was gonna say when we say half sister, like maybe that's the half that they're talking about, where they have like a mechanical leg, and so that's like the in joke, right? Where they're quote unquote half sister because she has a mechanical leg
that Daedalus made for her.
Yeah. Is she the one that was? If we want to really tie it back and up the drama, was she the one who got wounded as a child by the Minotaur? I mean, not by Theseus. No, because then she would know that Theseus did it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We can't go full.
Can't do that.
I still think that it's. I still think that it is.
It would be neat though.
Icarus is the one who was murdered, who kicks off this whole thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that changes Daedalus' whole mind. You know?
Yeah. I mean, imagine the guilt that you feel because my son died because of my hubris and stuff. Actually, that's even more thematically appropriate. Good Lord, this thing writes itself.
It does. It's just fucking. See, this is why these myths they all contain something fundamental, I think, about human beings.
Yes.
And that's why we can just like mine them, and they always generate something new. Like they're the ultimate texts. You know?
Absolutely. All right, so I love what we've created here. Such a cool, fun scenario, and unfortunately, we have to roll the dice and see if it gets ruined by a twist. So let's go ahead and roll the dice, see what happens. All right, and the twist is there is no twist. So we lucked out. There is no twist. Nice. I think that another twist would have potentially kind of ruined a really cool and fun, strong idea. So I like what we've got going on here. Oh boy, this is fun. I like that we've subverted the roles of the Minotaur and Theseus. I love the weird steampunk romantic gothic setting that we've going on. Like everything about this is like so fucking fun. I love this. Oh man, I feel like because there's no twist, we have to add in a little bit more, right? Like what else can we add to this concept here? Anything? Do we want to do a little bit more, or What are we thinking?
My only other thought was like, what if the crime that the Minotaur had walked in on was Theseus like killing Ariadne's sister or something like that at the start to like really link it all back to it? But that might be overkill.
So you want to add like personal stakes to Ariadne's character?
Yeah, like she never solved that crime, and that's been like haunting her, and so that's why she's like really putting herself into this.
Fuck it, why not? Right?
Yeah, why not? Because then she'll really have to turn on Theseus. She'll realize that the whole family is corrupt. Everything she trusted is corrupted.
Yeah,
maybe the cops helped cover it up, and so she can't even trust them anymore.
Okay,
that's perfect.
One thing I want to, because I feel like we've definitely got the gothic horror down, or that part down pretty well, because we're steeped in like Victorian London style city, and we're like steeped in this kind of Jack the Ripper aesthetic. I love that. Besides the Minotaur being like steampunky themselves, like, is there anything that we can add on the steampunk side of things? Maybe
I've already got your answer.
Well, then tell me, Daniel.
As you were talking, I'm like, I got it. So the Theseus who murders people, he doesn't he doesn't quite murder them. He like takes them apart and stitches them into like steampunk parts, and blames that on the Minotaur because the Minotaur is part steampunk.
Okay.
And so perhaps like there's also some sexual fixations attached to it. Like he doesn't kill them; he keeps them alive as like part automatons in his collection, you know. And
That's
does
horrifying.
horrible things to them. Yeah.
Oh, so like the body parts they leave behind are just the ones that like didn't make the cut, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a terrible pun. I'm sorry,
that's
like,
awful.
It's fucked up.
No, but like those are like so people aren't finding like whole bodies. It's just like
bits
pieces
of
and bits. Yeah.
He keeps the parts he wants. And he keeps them alive. And so maybe the steampunk aspect of this, because it leans on horror, is more like cyborg, but cyborg of the sense of like steampunk cyborg.
Right. So you mean like Morkborg meets cyborg. So
yes,
Morkborg's cyborg, which I think I've said org too much, but yeah, okay, I can support this for
and
sure.
he can blame it on the Minotaur because the Minotaur is part. It clearly makes sense. The Minotaur is a monster like this, and so he creates monsters like himself because he's searching for love.
Yeah.
You know,
we can go a level of propaganda even deeper and suggest that like Theseus is like, oh, I've heard that he's trying to make a human suit for himself. You know, like go full Buffalo Bill with it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
and then
fucking Theseus is a dick.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's true. If you've ever played Hades, you know that Theseus is a dick. But
I downloaded that, but I need to play that game. I love that.
You
studio.
haven't played Hades?
That studio is so good.
It's so good.
My
Hades
favorite game of all time is
Hades is one of the rare games where I actually got all of the achievements in it because I never wanted to stop playing that game.
Transistor, so I didn't want to play it again because my first experience of it was so perfect. I'm like, I don't want to ruin this.
I will admit, Daniel, I did not finish Transistor. Yeah.
How could you?
I didn't play it.
Well,
either.
how could you not play Hades, Daniel?
I want to. I desperately want to.
I'm sure you can get it on Steam for fairly cheap, but I
own it.
Well, what's the problem?
Time. That's my problem.
You need to create some more time for yourself, Daniel.
Right?
Treat yourself, instead of like taking a quote unquote vacation to work on all your other stuff. Maybe you should take an actual vacation. But I feel like if you were to do that, you would just like start to crumble and fall apart.
Yeah. I don't know how that works. Like, I can't do it.
Like your brain and life force depend on inertia.
Yes.
And I feel like if you allowed yourself
together with work, so
we'll
fall apart.
Daniel is the living embodiment of #hustle. Let me tell you guys. Okay, we've stepped away from the Victorian steampunk gothic Minotaur world, and next we're going to do the exact same monster but in a completely different context. So let's go ahead and see what we roll here. The genre that this Minotaur is going to be taking place in is cosmic horror. Okay. The theme surrounding this Minotaur in a cosmic horror sense is going to be
to do the Minotaur again.
Something forbidden. And yes, we are doing the Minotaur again.
Oh, okay.
Well, I just think it'd be fun to see the same monster in two different contexts, you know?
Yeah, I just feel Minotaured out. That's the problem.
Well, try and take that in, because look, I know that we just did the Minotaur, right? But I think that try and take that energy, like, because we did come up with an amazing concept. Like, I love that concept. Try and take that concept. We've got cosmic horror now with a theme of something forbidden. I mean, I think that the theme of the Minotaur in and of itself is definitely something forbidden anyway. How do we take this and make it interesting? Daniel, you're a little burnt out on Minotaurs. I understand that. What's the twist? How do we make it fresh? How do we reinvigorate you to get you excited about a Minotaur again?
Didn't you have to roll other stuff? Like we have.
Nope.
Oh, we had two of the last time.
Well, right, because I rolled roll twice and combine.
So cosmic horror is the one in this one?
Cosmic horror is the genre. The theme is something forbidden. How does the Minotaur fit into this? I mean, my brain immediately goes into, again, because this is just so happens with cosmic horror that my brain always goes to Call of Cthulhu. This is not a labyrinth in a physical sense, but in a occult sense. Yeah. So you're a detective trying to find the Minotaur as you're following this weird occult trail down, and it's again, in my mind, it's a globe hopping adventure where you're just trying to track down like pages of this book or something like that. But Daniel, where is your brain going? Because again, I want you to feel excited. I want you to feel as excited as I am every time I approach a Minotaur. So what do we got? What are you thinking?
I feel like I need one more thing for this.
What's the thing?
I mean, like one more vector,
All right. Well, if that's the case, Courtney, let's see if you can add the thing that we need to tickle Daniel's balls here. What is this third vector that Daniel needs, and what are your thoughts on this concept so far?
I do like the idea of not a literal labyrinth, but more like a labyrinthine mystery that somebody's trying to figure out, and like maybe there's a cult that's trying to summon this Minotaur creature from from beyond space and time or whatever. And
ooh, that's fun. And then the symbol is like, you can tell that there's like a high priest when they put on like the Minotaur helmet it just looks like a bullhead. Yeah. And so in again, I always try and think cinematically. It's like you're a detective and then you see this ritual from afar, and then like backlit by a massive brazier is this shadowy figure of the Minotaur. And it's like just a cultist with a Minotaur head on. But there is something like really fucking scary and cool about that. So yeah, that's fun. What else you got, Courtney? I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just get so excited about Bowman. How can you? I mean, come on. Anyway, what were you saying? Yeah.
No, it's just sort of trailing off because I'm not entirely sure where to go from there. Wasn't there a Lovecraft story where somebody's like in a pyramid and they see something, some like ritual type thing, and their mind gets broken, and that's
I was gonna say, I'm like,
it was like a literal pyramid though. Like,
is that the one with the penguins?
No.
I think you're thinking of the Mountains of Madness, Daniel. Yeah, that's right. That's the one with the penguins.
No, this is like actually in Egypt, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think. Yeah, it's like some guy gets like trapped in a pyramid, and he sees some like crazy ritual, and.
Oh, okay. I like the idea that we've got going on here, that we've got a labyrinthine mystery, and there is a cult of the Minotaur, cult of the bull, whatever you want to call it. In reality, if this is cosmic horror, we'd be calling it the cult of, and then the name, like a proper noun name of a god, right? Like it's the cult of Dagon, like Cthulhu, et cetera, et cetera. But in here, it's some bull-based god. Maybe we can just call it Minos, right? Like the cult of Minos. But where's the cosmic? Daniel, can you come in and tell me what the cosmic part of this is?
Yeah, so one thing that we have to capture if we're dealing with cosmic horror is what's called acosmicism, which I think in the last episode we talked a little bit about it, is the idea that the divine forces or whatever they are outside the universe just don't care about us, and that the universe is divested of meaning, so it's nihilistic. So this detective's quest is ultimately pointless. Like, he can't solve it, and he will be consumed by madness. And the cultists, whatever Minos is, doesn't give a crap about the cultists. So basically, both of them are approaching this from a human perspective that this other entity just does not understand or care about.
Okay.
So there's an oppressive sense of not just lack of meaninglessness, but indifference to human ambition that the universe has.
I could see with the cult, like them thinking that they're like worshiping this god being, like thinking that will give them like special privileges when he is summoned, but in reality, when they actually succeed, he just shows up and literally eats them, because that's what the Minotaur does in Greek mythology. He just eats people.
Is this cult trying to bring the manifestation of Minos into this universe? So they're trying to enact some kind of like fertility ritual where they're trying to birth the next actual Minotaur into the world?
You know, what's making me think is if we cast so I'm thinking of True Detective, the first season.
The good season, yes.
Right. And there was an aspect of that was definitely cosmic horror inspired. Even though it didn't like literally go there. And I wonder if we take all the elements that we have been doing, we make it in a more modern setting, and we don't make it explicit as to whether it's truly supernatural. So, perhaps Minos that's being quote unquote summoned by these cultists is really a manifestation of their own insanity or their own kind of, the horror that they've created in this cult. And there's the detective is trying to find out about these murders or these cultists and about stories of, monsters eating people. But there's a question of whether this is a real thing or not. And that's part of the madness for the detective. The further he descends into this mystery, the more he's not sure whether or not this cult is real or not, or what it's actually worshiping, and the things he's encountering he can't really make sense of. And then the reader or the viewer or the player too begins to doubt their own reality.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so spoilers for season 1 of True Detective, the good season, are going to be sprinkled out as I continue to talk about this. But I see what you're talking about, Daniel, where you get to the end of that season and you find out that Carcosa and the Yellow King are all basically like veiled metaphors for the rich and super powerful and stuff like that, right? And you find out that, to me, disappointingly, Carcosa was not real, right? But I also I think that what you, by talking about True Detective, you've nailed that exact type of like acosmicism and tone. Like, you see Russ deteriorate mentally, and like and you see Woody Harrelson's character do the exact same thing, but like he handles it in a very different way.
Yeah.
I mean, that phrase "time is a flat circle" is so powerful because I think it captures the feeling of acosmicism that humans would have, knowing that is the case in their universe.
Daniel, can you tell me the difference between nihilism and acosmicism? Because I feel like there's a lot of overlap going on there.
Yeah, so nihilism isn't necessarily bad. Like, nihilism says that the universe inherently doesn't have meaning. So what that entails is that we create the meaning. So when Nietzsche says God is dead, God defines meaning in the universe. Like, the reason why we do things, the reason why we care, we have morals, is because God says so. So as soon as God is dead, the universe is emptied of inherent meaning, and we're going to start deciding what does it mean to do good and such. However, so it can be a good thing. There's also, like, obviously a cynical, depressive version of nihilism, which is like, oh, and now let us despair because, the universe has no meaning. Like, Fight Club is a great example of nihilism in the positive sense. And I can go on more about that, but that's a separate thing. Acosmicism, on the other hand, takes it a step further. It says not only is it the case that nihilism is true, but out there in the universe too, there are forces that are amoral. Like, they have no understanding or care for human meaning or human compassion or concepts that humans understand. And in a sense, they're going to their interaction with us will utterly annihilate us. And the fact that they exist, it's like almost like an anti-god. The fact that they're out there means that the universe is inherently like uncaring, empty, and it's a hopeless affair. Like, not only is there no meaning embedded in the universe, but there are entities out there beyond our understanding that make it impossible for us to create meaning because they're infinite and powerful and totally opposed, not out of malice but because they just don't understand humanity to us.
I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but it still describes the type of horror that we're talking about here so well. And it's to describe the elder gods of the Cthulhu mythos. Imagine that humanity is two anthills fighting over ground in a parking lot, and the elder gods, such as Cthulhu, are the humans who are about to bulldoze that parking lot and put up something new into it. Like the ants are so beneath our care and notice that we literally are just like, because what we're doing is so above and beyond that. That's and like I think that's like a great way to approach that type of horror as well.
Like even if you can make meaning, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And I kept saying it should be just cosmicism. I don't know why I added a in front of it. That would like negate itself. It's cosmicism.
It does sound more academic when you call it
more official. Yeah.
So that's probably what it is. You just want to sound a little bit fancy.
I know, I didn't mean to, but it's just cosmicism.
All right, we're drifting away from the cult of Minos here, right? So let's bring it all back. By the way, Daniel, round of applause for like that great spiel on nihilism and cosmicism.
Yes, agreed.
Like,
only because I did my undergrad thesis on one of H.P. Lovecraft's contemporary. That's the only ways I can get away with
that. Clark Ashton Smith?
Yes.
Okay. I knew we talked about this before. Anyway, all right. So we've got. Are we at the point where we're ready to throw in a twist yet, or are we kind of like? Because I feel like we've got a core concept that's very strong, right? I feel like we're missing something, though, right?
Yeah. What I was thinking is, especially when you brought up True Detective season 1 and how there's like the really disturbing rituals and abuse and trafficking that's occurring. Like we could kind of carry, just awful. We could sort of carry that over here as well, in terms of like maybe they're doing some sort of mutilation or something to like symbolize or do something related to bulls and that.
I'm
like,
thinking literal
crossover.
Branding, yeah,
or like it could be like a labyrinth shaped brand, like.
Oh yeah.
That
could work. I don't know how that would necessarily show up on skin in reality, but this is fiction, so fuck it, right?
That makes me think of Nexium, that cult.
Nexium.
Yeah.
And so I wonder and that had to do with sexually abusing women. So I wonder if we can go back to the theme of Minos' wife who copulated the bull. So maybe there's some aspect that has to do with women that makes it creepier.
Oh god, like a forced copulation kind of thing. As part of a ceremony, if we want to go that dark with it.
This is incredibly dark, but I think that what we're talking about here, like in terms of like modern cults, when we're talking about labyrinthine thinking, when we're talking about like all this horrible nonsense, like it lines and again, our genre is cosmic horror, so this totally works, right? Like I mean, it's not like we're gonna get like sunshine and fucking puppies when we're talking about cosmic horror, and if we do, horrible things are happening to those sunshine and puppies.
We can flip it. We can make the cultists primarily female, and they have some kind of forced sexual copulation with their victims.
Okay, yeah. And then so it's the men who are branded as bulls is what we're talking about here.
Yes.
Okay.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Sure. I can fully support this. So we have like a matriarchal kind of like, so it's inverted Nexium, right? Where it's a matriarchal society where men are branded because they're like, I mean, we can take like an ultra hyper like giga feminist and break the logic to the point where it's like men are simply cattle to be used for copulation in some kind of way. Yeah. And then, sorry,
do you know what's that Lars von Trier movie? Could sprinkle a little bit of Lars von Trier on it. I'm saying his
Which
name
one are we talking about here? Because Lars von Trier has a pretty robust body of work.
It's the one with the devil in the cabin. It's just grotesque.
Antichrist.
Oh, Antichrist.
Yes.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I haven't seen that one
That's
actually.
fucked up.
I've only let me see what have
that's
I
the
seen
one where
stuff?
she like. I mean, there's a scene where it's just gross, but it involves like private parts and this woman like doing something to a person to the point that they bleed. It's gross.
I think I know the scene that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I've literally only seen Dancer in the Dark, which is incredibly depressing now that I think about it.
I mean, it's real fucked up. So I'm wondering if we're gonna have like extremist psychopathic women,
like actually doing like body mutilation kind of stuff. Yikes.
You know what? I feel like now is a good point to come in with the twist. Once we're teetering on that like edge of bleak, I feel like now is the time where we're like, maybe we pull it back just a little bit. You know,
what if they're actually like trying to make a Minotaur, like,
oh yeah,
like graft
Go
bull features onto a man so that he looks like a Minotaur, which is awful.
I love it.
Now we're adding elements of like human centipede, and that's just horrifying to me. Like, dear Lord.
Beautiful. Excellent work.
Thank you. So the twist.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, yeah, let's find the twist. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, we're on the edge of bleak. I feel like now is definitely the time to roll for the twist. So let's see what we get and hope that it's not now make it super dark, because I already feel like we're almost there, you know? All right. So our twist for this Minotaur is add in some time travel. Fascinating. Okay. My brain immediately goes to an occurrence on Owl Creek. So the detective that we're following here, this is all in their head as they're dying, as they're about to be like turned into the Minotaur. You know, like, so that's how but it's not true time travel. It's more like we're experiencing time in a nonlinear fashion. That would also go with the cosmic horror themes, where the victim here, being the detective, is kind of the anchor point character. And yeah, let's move away from that, I think.
I mean, I like interpreting it not as literal time travel. I think that's important.
Sure. I mean, I think that can work, mind you, right? Like, they're trying to solve a case while experiencing like flashes of their memory being like jumbled up and fucked up and stuff like that, right?
Well, could it be even simpler? Like, could the detective just be a heavy drug user, and he has this like part of his investigation is like hampered by his addiction, and it really gives him these kind of weird, like you're saying, memory issues, almost like Memento sort of thing.
You should really watch From Hell, by the way.
Is that what it is?
The Johnny Depp's character, who is like the main investigator, is an opium addict, and like they start the movie in an opium den. So anyway, I think I like that idea. I think because it adds this kind of thing where you watch as this character falls deeper and deeper into this labyrinth, and then towards the end, right, or maybe they're using the opium to kind of help them out of the labyrinth to kind of come back to reality, only at the last minute to watch this twist be that the opium is the thing that's sinking them closer and closer to the Minotaur. And what happens is that last hit that they do of opium is the one where, oh, by the way, the den that you've been using as sanctuary this entire time is actually the absolute den of the Minotaur, and it's the center of this cult, and we've been leading you here this entire time.
I love it.
Yeah. Oh, what if we like tie in the Ariadne part in a way of like a woman from this cult was posing as if she was helping this guy, giving him. She's the one who's like giving him
victim. Yeah,
and she's like giving him this like drug, like the thread of some sort. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
she his drug user? Like his what do you call his fixer?
Yeah, or like she kind of nudges him in that direction as like, oh, I can see you're in a lot of pain. Like, let me help you out here, kind of thing. Like, I want to help you with this case, and she's actually just luring him into this.
I like the idea that he goes into the opium den and she notices like, hey, what are you doing with that symbol? And she's like, oh, I escaped from that cult years ago, and like is able to feed him leads that end up getting her closer and closer to the edge. And then at the end, of course, she's the matriarch behind the whole goddamn thing.
That's fucked up. I love it.
Fuck. All right. Yeah. That's and what I love about that in particular, right, is that you really can make that super modern, because I feel like it all works remarkably. By the way, the Nexium thing, like my head is just like, 100% Nexium. Like,
I was thinking about that. That was fucked up. We gotta add that. Anything with like bodily, if we're gonna do horror, anything with like the body being violated, not to mention our current situation, but that's what it makes me think of, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there is, I think that for me, I'm going to get a little deep here with my own personal phobias. I remember watching some movie way back that was based on H.P. Lovecraft's movies. And I don't remember the movie itself being good, but I remember one of the things that like still terrifies me to this, like to my absolute core, is that the twist at the end is like, this woman wakes up and she has no limbs and she's trapped helpless as she's watching like horrible, like, like that to me, like makes me so deeply uncomfortable. Like where I'm like, you are helpless and like completely, like you can't do anything. Like, oh God, it makes me so uncomfortable. Like I'm literally like cringing right now, not in like the embarrassment way. Oh yeah. I if anyone remembers what that is, shoot me an email or send it over on Discord. Like, I cannot for the life of me remember anything more about that movie, but that scene always is like seared into my brain.
I'm also getting vibes of Midsummer. Not to
Yeah. Oh, actually, that is also very appropriate now that I think about it. Except with a bull instead of a bear, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Daniel, you really got to watch Hereditary and Midsummer.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen either of those. I think I've heard music from Midsummer, but
it's good.
Oh yeah, the very music in both is really good. Also, I mean, I know that we're basically done with this scenario and we're talking horror movies at this point, but like, can we talk about how Toni Collette got fucking snubbed for her portrayal in that movie? Where it's like, that is one of the most powerful performances. And it's like the Oscars didn't even glance at it because it's in the fucking horror category.
Wait, she didn't even get a nomination.
She didn't even get a nomination. It's like easily one of the, hold on. Let me before I get fully enraged about that, let me Google and see how true that is. Give me a fucking second. Was not even nominated.
Wow.
Not even nominated.
That's gross.
Yeah, no, that's disgusting because that movie is so I don't often sit here and, because I mean, I love trash horror movies. It's no surprise to anyone, but that movie is Hereditary is one, you have to be in the right headspace for it. Don't go into it if you're kind of bummed out. Be ready to be like, and actually I know that some of our patrons are like, oh, it's boring as fuck. Like, yeah, okay, get out of here, Glue Axe. I don't care about your opinion in this case. That movie is chilling. It's one of the rare movies that like actually gave me goosebumps and like made me feel a chill up my back, which is like never happens, you know, like anyway. So Daniel, you should watch it.
Yeah, you should.
if you're up for a cheery movie anyway. Yeah.
My list of movies.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Your list of movies that never end.
Lately, what I've been enjoying watching is, and I love bitching about this, is I watch the Red Letter Media reviews of really bad shows. So in particular, Picard. Instead of watching Picard, I just watch their horrible commentary on it. Because
I feel like that's all you need. Like,
it's all you need, honestly.
Yeah. That's why I love Best of the Worst so much. Like, I can experience the movie without actually subjecting myself to it.
Is that one the one they have Macaulay Culkin shows up every now and then?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
exactly.
him. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, Mac is fucking great on that show. It's like they've
Such a
actually
cool
had
dude
real
to be there.
celebrities on recently, and I'm like, what the hell? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, I feel like that's two very different and interesting takes on the Minotaur for sure.
Yeah.
And I love that we can take like the core concept of it, and you don't even need to have a furry, shaggy ass bull man in order to have like, oh, this is the Minotaur. You like people would watch this story and they would recognize this is the Minotaur. This is the story of the Minotaur. Oh my God. How does oh, these are fucking hacks. Look at them. This is just the Minotaur myth, like whatever. But no, like look how cool and how different both of those stories are. I mean, admittedly, we both have detectives of main characters, but I think that the stories themselves are wildly different enough that we can kind of handwave that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So this format that we've done today, this monster mash, is incredibly new. And I know that it's basically just Monster Makeover mushed in with a world building jam, but shut up, make your own podcast. And if you like this, let us know. If you would rather us go back to doing the world building setting stuff, you can have us build your world by going to our website, worldbuildwithus.com, submitting your prompt, and we'll do your world building setting within a reasonable amount of time. If you want to tweet at us and let us know that you love this particular concept, you can tweet us over at Let's World Build, or you can just come and talk about it in the Discord. And you can argue with Gluax about how Hereditary is actually a fantastic movie. Don't even at me. There's a link for that in the description if you want to do that in the Discord, or if you're feeling particularly generous and want to give us money, or if you just, want access to our sweet, sweet patron only episodes, there's a link for our Patreon in the description. Click on that, give us money if you want, no pressure, right? That's going to do it for this episode of World Build with Us. Remember that we love you very much, and we're going to get through this together. Until next week.